good morning, everyone. Delighted to see you here and welcome to the First Minister's National Advisory Council on Women and Girls session. I'm Louise MacDonald and I'm the independent chair of the Advisory Council. A huge thanks to each and every one of you on behalf of the Council for coming along today and for your continued support. If it wasn't for all of you, we really would not be able to do this work, and we certainly wouldn't be able to deliver on the ambitious task that the First Minister has set for us. I also want to thank everyone at this brilliant venue, the Out of the Blue Drill Hall in Edinburgh. How many people have been here before? A few of you? A few? Oh, great, fantastic. How many of you was it a just short toddle round the corner to get here? There was some people that this was very handy. So it's an amazing community arts venue here in Edinburgh. I'd highly recommend checking it out. Check out their programme and the kind of programme of events and things that they run here as well. It's a really amazing venue. To start us off, I'm actually going to ask us all to do a bit of a very quick task. So the key to this is to do this quickly and without too much thought, okay? Can everybody get your phone out if you've got your phone, okay? And what I'd like you to do is I would like you to think of a woman or a girl that you know that right now needs to hear that they're brilliant. And I want you to send them a message. Just send them a message and tell them they're amazing. Okay, so 30 seconds to do that. Just tell them they're fabulous. All right, so there's sounds of whooshing as those messages head off into the ether. They're all gone. Lots of people thinking about it too much, I can tell. Okay, that all right? Excellent. Right, so, and we'll check in later on just to see what you get back, all right? Okay. So, a few thank yous before we begin, because I like to do the thank yous at the beginning rather than the end of these kind of events to acknowledge all those that have helped us make this happen. So, absolutely to all of you in this room, but also everyone across the country who's been hosting their own Spotlight We Circles. Our amazing friends at Rape Crisis in Orkney continue to shine doing their circles, as does Royston Youth Group, SNH, and all points in between. So if you haven't yet set up your own wee circle and would like to do so, please do chat to us about that. We'd love to have more of you doing the same. And a thanks to our table facilitators who come along to these sessions and help us out with the facilitation of our discussions. These circle sessions can have their challenges because there are so many passionate people in the room, but each one of these facilitators handles those discussions so well. And I'm personally very grateful to all of those facilitators for the hard work and the thought that they put into making sure that everyone's voice at the table gets heard respectfully and inclusively. Although we all have a personal responsibility to make sure that that happens too. An hour passes really quickly at these sessions, so a huge thanks to everyone for kind of keeping on topic with those questions too. As ever, a thanks to our illustrator in residence, as she's now known, Linda Hunter, and Linda will be continuing to kind of capture the event today. Her talent for creating incredible kind of works of powerful art that capture what we're doing with such substance and style really is amazing. And I, of course, want to pay tribute to my fellow Advisory Council members for their insight and their represent such diverse lived experience around the table on the Council and their expertise. It really is a privilege to work with each of you as a collective force for change here in Scotland. And our circle, so only some of you fit in the room at the moment. Our circle membership is large and continues to grow. In 18 months, we're now standing at over 850, and it's growing, and it's very diverse, and it's inclusive. So whether you're an organisation that delivers equality work every day and have done tirelessly for decades, or an organisation that recognise now is the time to step up and be part of some change, you're all very, very welcome. We really are pleased to have seen such an impact in our ambition to increase the numbers and the range of cross-sector organisations committed to taking more action on gender equality. That was one of our kind of key aims when we began. But we are always, always conscious of examining our model and our processes to make sure that the Advisory Council and the Circle is accessible. So we do offer alternatives for those that are unable to attend these Circle events, including satellite sessions and also electronic feedback and follow-up on the questions that we discussed. We also offer a creche at these events, which is kind of bookable in advance. Nobody wanted it today, but bear it in mind for next time and for future events, and book that ahead. And from next year, we're also going to be introducing live streaming of these events so that people can kind of dial in. And we'll also, that will add to the work that we do around filming and interactive meeting notes as well. But if you think there's more we can do, if we can further extend our accessibility options and our inclusion options, we'll be surveying the Circle and asking for your ideas about how we do that. So please do help us to make that better. Because everyone's here and everyone is part of this work, because we believe equality for women and girls also means equality for boys and men and for those that don't identify. And that equality means a better, fairer, more compassionate and kinder world for every single one of the people that live here in Scotland and beyond. So while you're here today, please do share your experience using Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, whatever is your chosen social media option. Anybody on TikTok yet? If you want to make any wee videos, then go for it. But don't forget to use the hashtag Generation Equal and hashtag NACWG when you do, so that we can retweet you as well. Some practical details about today. So the practical housekeeping details are all on your tables. So there's information there about Wi-Fi and etc. and evacuation procedures. There will, of course, be a mid-morning break where you can check your email, catch up on urgent messages, or check in with those that you care for or are responsible for caring for. I also want to point out that we also have access to another room, the rehearsal room, which is available for anyone to use if you require a quiet space, if you need somewhere to catch your breath for a few moments, or you need it as a place of reflection or a place to pray. So that is available. So please do ask the team if you want to kind of use that. It's available all morning. So 2019, it's been a busy and eventful year for the Advisory Council. We've met with our Circle twice already, so this is our third outing, our final face-to-face gathering with you in 2019, exploring the topic of policy coherence. You may have noticed that earlier this year, in June, the Scottish Government responded in full to our 2018 report, accepting all of the recommendations, 7 in full and 4 in principle, due to their complex nature. And again, I want to pay credit to the Circle for this, for helping us to achieve that milestone, because it was your insight and your guidance that helped us develop those recommendations. You may also have seen that in the recent programme for government that was published, it featured some of the recommendations within our 2018 report, and the Advisory Council continues to be pleased and positive about the continued public commitment of Scottish Government to this agenda, although, of course, we remain ambitious for us all to go further and go faster. The Advisory Council will be keeping a close eye on how the implementation of those recommendations is developed as we work on this year's topic, and we know that many of you in this room will be involved in their implementation through your roles. We're also going to be holding an accountability day on the 6th of November this year. This is a first attempt at this, and that's a moment to kind of check in on progress and action taken by the Scottish Government and colleagues. And we include ourselves as a council in this accountability. Of course we do. And so we will be surveying all 850 of you to ask if we are getting things right, what do we need to do to improve, how can we make things better to help our planning for next year. So to today's business. The First Minister's Advisory Council on Women and Girls was formed as a catalyst for change to address gender inequality, providing an independent voice to the First Minister. And our vision is for Scotland to be recognised as a world leader for our commitment and action towards realising an equal society where all women and girls can reach their true potential. We want gender inequality to become a historical curiosity, nothing less. Many of you have heard me say that before. Some of you might have heard me say that for the first time today, but that continues to be our North Star. As an advisory council, we understood from the start that we couldn't do this alone. We knew we needed your help and expertise, so we created the circle, and you've helped us form our 3-year strategy. So we agreed we would take a specific focus each year. Last year, we looked at attitudes and culture change. This year, we're looking at policy coherence. And in 2020, we're going to move on and look at how you might create an intersectional gender architecture in Scotland. From the start, we were clear that the role of the Advisory Council is to look at issues at a system level. We're clear that behaviour drives attitudes and that behaviours are driven by systems. So we focus our attention there, continually asking ourselves what needs to happen to create systemic change, because that will then unlock change throughout the rest of the system that everyone will benefit from. So for policy coherence, our exploration this year is focusing on how policy is made rather than critiquing individual policies. So let me take you to an imaginary ideal world. We have umbrellas and almost blue sky. It's not quite blue sky, but we have sky. A world where policy making involves having a clear, coherent, and ranked set of policy objectives. The process is specific, it's ordered, and the analysis of the context is comprehensive. In this imaginary world, policymakers are able to use their policy as a lever to solve our complex social problems, and all is well. Right? Now, here's the spoiler. The world is not like that. It's more like this. We're about to tweet this image out, okay? So I'm afraid the light in here has made this quite difficult. But this is, some of you might know this is Jack Nino's extinction illusion. Okay, so you can always look at it later as well, and I was kind of tweeting it out. But essentially, this is named after the French scientist, Jacques Nino. And the core of this is, you will see that there are, some of you might be able to see probably at the front, that there are some black dots at some of these intersections in this grid. It's actually impossible to see all 12 at the same time. It's not possible. It turns out regular patterns are really tempting because we look at a small portion and think we've got the whole thing figured out. So we can see 1, we can see 2, we can see 3, and then we start to see patterns, but we can't see the whole thing. So in terms of neurobiology, we have more neurons at the centre of our vision rather than the outside, which means we can only see things within a certain range at the centre of our vision. And this illusion demonstrates that our brain compensates for what we cannot see. And I suppose the leap I'm attempting to make is that policy making is a bit like this. We strive to seek patterns to figure out the complex world that we live and operate in, and that's often referred to as bounded rationality. But it is a mechanistic system. And of course, we're all human, which then starts to create problems because in our world, we also need to operate in a human system, which means we need to question our own ability to separate values and facts. And on top of this, our policymakers, in whatever context they are in, are also human and have multiple, often unclear objectives, which are difficult to rank in any meaningful way due to the complex and ever-shifting environment that they're operating in. Quite often, our policy-making organisations have challenges around research capacity and resources. Policymakers have to use major shortcuts to gather a limited amount of an amount of information in only a limited time. And in the words of policymaking academic Paul Kearney, we end up not maximising, but instead we satisfies. When gender issues are then raised within the policy-making context, we often tend to focus on numbers. Numbers of women in senior positions, number of women in panels, numbers of women on boards, numbers of women on expert commissions. And yes, these numbers are incredibly important. They are important to keep track of in terms of progress and lack of progress. But we also need to recognise the lack of women in visible and powerful roles is an indicator of a bigger problem. inbuilt biases, inequality that continues to hinder and block equality for all women, but especially those who are disabled, are women of colour, or experiencing poverty. The fact is that many organisational cultures don't equally value women's experiences, their needs, or their contributions. And until these organisations start to understand that gender equality is a complex social issue that needs to be explored, discussed, and understood, there is a danger that Scotland will continue to make marginal progress with gender equality. So as a council, these are some of the things that we've been exploring over recent months, and there are a number of key challenges that we've learnt about from listening to the circle and hearing different evidence from different groups. So I'm going to share with you just a few of some of our kind of emerging findings. These aren't recommendations, these are just the key things and the key themes that we've heard. Because we've heard again and again and again that policy-making organisations across the board need to create meaningful opportunities for people with lived experience to have a real voice in decision-making. Scotland is making progress. We are moving towards a more collaborative approach to working with groups and people with lived experience, but it is still not equitable and more needs to be done. Secondly, we heard that there is an urgent need to build gender analysis competency of policy leaders and practitioners to help them to apply these skills in every area, whether that's human resources or policy planning. A detailed understanding of the issues around gender equality is needed and at a higher expert level. There is a need to create safe spaces then to openly discuss how organisations' unspoken gender dynamics are affecting policymakers' views and thinking themselves. Gender equality needs this 360-degree frame. And we've also been hearing from people that policy leaders and practitioners need to learn how to apply a gender lens in every area of working life and at every stage of policy making, not just when it's an obvious requirement, but persistently, relentlessly, and constantly at each and every decision-making point. And it's not just policymakers that people told us need support. All those people who are engaging with policymakers need support and training too, and everyone involved in the process of policymaking must be supported if we're going to make the change we want to see. Thirdly, we heard from a number of people at the kind of circle, events and others, that there needs to be a greater focus on gender equality and policy making at a local authority level. Women make up only 29% of councillors in Scotland, meaning that the council chambers of Scotland today have a greater gender imbalance than the parliaments at Holyrood or Westminster, where it certainly isn't as good as it should be there either. And we have heard that the local level policy making in Scotland can have a limited gender equality focus, and it is often, not always, but often, national level initiatives that have helped to bring about a greater focus on gender equality. And a last insight into what we've heard so far and what the circle has been telling us, that in tackling these issues, we could all benefit from having some more curiosity, compassion, and humility in our policy making process. What we need is a thing called shoshin. Anyone familiar with shoshin in the long way? Anyone familiar with it? Heard it before? So it's a Japanese approach to life, and it celebrates what's called a beginner's mind. The practice of shoshin means having an open mind without preconceptions when we are learning something, even if we are an expert. The problems we are trying to solve in our modern world are so complex and complicated and interconnected that there's no single right answer, there's no ideal policy on X that can sit alone and unbounded to any other to solve Y. So the only way we can navigate through our seemingly never-ending complexity is by solving problems collaboratively. And to do this, we need to be curious about each other's experiences and perspectives. We need to understand the different worlds that we all inhabit. So our session today builds on the outputs from our first two meetings held in Dundee and then Glasgow. So further insight from the circle. Today's session is where we as a council take our final deep dive into this topic before we then start to think about our recommendations and what they might be. As always, we want your insight, we want your expertise, we want your examples, we want your challenge. This is an invitation for every single one of you to be curious and for you to practice Shoshin. And the good news is I'm about to stop talking and you've got two excellent speakers who are going to help us do just that, first of all. So the first two, a double act we have of Angela O'Hagan and Gary Gillespie, who are going to take a focus on gender budgeting. So Angela is independent chair of the Scottish Government Equality and Budgets Advisory Group and has been involved in promoting and publishing on gender budgeting in Scotland and internationally for over 20 years. She's a senior lecturer in equality and public policy at Glasgow Caledonian University and is also deputy director of the Wise Centre for Economic Justice. Gary is the Scottish Government's chief economist. Gary's directorate provides analytical support for ministers and colleagues on the economy, public finances, producing economic statistics and working to enhance the quality and breadth of economic data and analysis. He's also responsible for supporting the work of the Council of Economic Advisers, developing and publishing core economic statistics for Scotland, many of which are classified as national statistics, and improving the technical capacity of government to successfully implement new fiscal powers on tax forecasting, policy modelling and macroeconomic forecasting. I really hope he watches Bake Off at night to relax. So please welcome me and join me in welcoming both of them.